Hello, this is Jared French, and I was out in the ProQuest historical newspaper database and I landed on a 1998 event that involved the president and an FBI investigation, and no, it's not that one. I'm speaking of when James Hudson, the chief of the manuscript division of the Library of Congress, involved the FBI to analyze the draft of President Thomas Jefferson's 1802 Danbury Baptist reply. Now, what's the occasion for getting the FBI involved in this analysis? Well, according to the Guardian article that I sourced, it was in preparation for the exhibit on religion and the founding of the American Republic. Lori Goodstein of the New York Times captured in her interview that this exhibit was to have 211 other documents and artifacts, but those 211 are overshadowed by this one as Hudson prepared his and released his press brief, and that Jefferson letter kind of flew a red flag and grabbed people's attention, that those people who are on heated on both sides of the church-state relation debate. The Goldstein's Times article aptly covers that firestorm of the two sides. You see some of the scholars' name, and then it portrays Hudson in the middle as the Library of Congress expert, Yale grad, a Presbyterian, and a churchgoer. Now let's talk about the FBI analysis. The Guardian article reveals that the FBI applied computerized crime lab techniques often used on ransom notes and blackmail demands. And so they were, again, removing and penetrating and filling in the strike-throughs. Irvin Molotsky of the New York Times interviewed the FBI laboratory head and the tech who did the process. The tech revealed that the process took about a month and a half while obviously keeping up with other crime duty. So they took a picture, they blew it up, and they used a technique called digital airbrush. Now, what's the finding? I would point you to the Princeton source that I have listed because it keeps a nice flow of the draft in connection to the final, and there's footnotes there for the draft. So Jefferson had an eternal separation between church and state. So he crossed out eternal. Now, I think crossing it out actually opens up a room for more interpretation. Then there's an expansion out on his rationale for not declaring national prayers and fasting, even though he put what he had in there was, I have the right. He says it's practiced indeed by an executive of another nation as a legal head of the church. I think the impact is if he would have kept that statement, that little jab, is that the Federalists and Washington Adams, who practiced such declarations, would all of a sudden be put in the same boat as that another head of a church, because he declared it. And so the final letter says basically the same thing without connecting Federalist presidents, esteemed Federalist presidents, with the enemy. So not making further alienation for Jefferson. Now, near the end of the letter, he puts in, I'm confining myself to the duties of my station, which are merely temporal. Which is still very interesting, right? That there was this eternal versus temporary dynamic of the letter, which was removed. The draft also includes an awareness of how, some of his Republican allies in the Northeast may be uneasy with these statements, and that's in clear text. You don't need the FBI involved for that. So, conclusion from the Goldstein's New York Times interview, it quotes Hudson, the Danbury letter was never conceived by Jefferson to be a statement of the fundamental principles. It was meant to be a political manifesto, nothing more. Now, 24 scholars rejected Hudson's interpretation on the basis they believe that changes nothing and the letter still is constitutional principle. And so, this is a small event in the scope for Americans, and yet it touches 200 years. It especially touches the latter half of the 20th century with the Supreme Court cases. And so I think it'd be an excellent case study of source interpretation analysis for History 222. And as I see you on the discussion board, I look forward to seeing how has this look at the 1802 Danbury letter maybe surface things about your analysis and interpretation of sources. I'll see you there.